As the hot hatch and Wisp-On booster foretold, Tangle and Whisper are in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. But who are they, and why is this such a big deal for the franchise? Tangle and Whisper were new characters created for the IDW Sonic comic book. After Sega's long-running partnership with Archie Comics ended in 2017, IDW gained the license and launched their first book in April of 2018. Unlike the Archie comic, or Sonic Boom, or the movies, the IDW comic is fully canon to the Sonic video games.
I saw one question in there, is IDW canon? It is canon. It does take place right after Forces.
Though no knowledge of it is needed to enjoy them, and vice versa. Now, small references to IDW's canonicity have shown up in various games and other media.
So, have any plans for the holidays?
Yeah, actually. Jewel is organizing a holiday party over at Restoration HQ.
The last time I let a fan near me, it was a massive headache. Never again! What was his name? Starbies? Shoreline?
Starline?
No, that can't be it.
Even in the Japanese scripts.
I bet Tangle would love climbing around these ruins.
タングルだったらこの辺りの遺跡、喜んで登りたがるだろうよ。
But its characters have been limited to dubiously canon mobile spin-offs. Until now. Tangle is a ring-tailed lemur around Sonic's age. She comes from Spiral Village, where Eggman attacks are a monthly tradition. She's long been a fan of Sonic and his adventures, but first meets them in her debut issue, IDW number 4, set shortly after the events of Sonic Forces. And her first impression perfectly sums up her character. Instantly leaping into action, she grabs a string of robots with her means of attack, her tail. She yanks it, blowing them all up at once. That looked exactly as cool as it did in her head. Oh, and she badly burned herself, which clearly did not occur to her beforehand. And Sonic's first words to her after this? Watch your back. Tangle's heart is in the right place, but she's reckless, to the point where Sonic looks reasonable. She's also bubbly, energetic, and extroverted. And due to her late debut, she's not as familiar with the fantastical forces Sonic and pals deal with on a weekly basis. Even Cream's seen more than her. Probably a bit too much. But Tangle is very eager to learn. Unlike many other spin-off characters, Tangle was designed as if she could be a playable character in one of the video games. She was inspired by an early concept for Sonic, a rabbit who could pick up and throw objects with their ears, but this gradually evolved into a tail that could grab and swing on things, with Bionic Commandos cited as an inspiration. A variant cover even depicted her in Sonic Advance style sprites. Please give us another game like this, Sega. While fighting alongside Team Sonic when needed, Tangle spends most of her time hanging out with other comic original characters. Her childhood friend and museum curator Jewel the Beetle, the complicated Lanolin the Sheep, and her most iconic companion and now fellow racer, Whisper. Whisper is some variety of wolf. She debuted in IDW issue 8, but unlike Tangle, this one doesn't tell us a lot about her. But there's a good reason for that. True to her name, Whisper is a lady of few words and keeps herself closed off. And she has a good reason for that. You see, one thing we do learn in her debut is that Whisper goes almost berserk around anything related to Eggman, as if he once did something very bad to her. And it wouldn't be too long before we learn the truth. Once upon a time, Whisper was a happy little wolf with the bestest friends anyone could ask for. An awesome anti-Eggman mercenary crew fighting in the Sonic Forces War. Fun fact, Whisper and all her companions were inspired by Metal Gear Solid characters. Anyway, despite the circumstances, Whisper was bubbly, hyper, and hopeful, a lot like Tangle. But then everything changed when her crew was brutally torn apart by shadow androids. Yeah, remember those things from the Shadows game?
Shadow? Android? Am I an android too?
This is an all-ages comic, by the way. This incident left Whisper with severe PTSD and difficulty making friends, both out of fear that they'll suffer the same fate, and one other reason you'll have to read the comics to find out. Whisper fights with a variable Wisp-on, similar to the ones avatars use in Forces. In fact, Whisper is essentially what would happen if you gave one of these avatars a more fleshed out backstory. And that's one of the things I love about her. Her backstory takes the wasted potential of Sonic Forces and turns it into what it always should have been. A real war with real consequences for Sonic's world and its people. While the IDW comics have introduced a few more new faces since then, Tangle and Whisper were the first and the most iconic, and they've gone on many adventures and developed a deep bond over the years. One that might be a little more than just friendship. So, one thing you should know is that Sega does not want romance in Sonic. They're still burned over Archie's love triangles and probably Sonic 06.
Oh no.
Side characters can be pitched already in a relationship, but its core cast aren't supposed to fall in love. But that doesn't mean there can't be subtle, and sometimes less subtle, teasers. Many writers for IDW have gone on record saying that if their hands weren't tied, Tangle and Whisper would be a couple. And I have to stress, Sega is not preventing this out of any kind of homophobia or agenda. This ban applies to all romance. So like all ships in Sonic, it's not canon, and they likely never will be. But also like all ships in Sonic, it's fun to think about. If you enjoy these two in Crossworld and want to see more of them, where do you start? I have two recommendations. If you want to start IDW at the beginning and see Tangle and Whisper's origins, get the first hardcover IDW collection. This contains the complete first arc, which is a pretty decent storyline, along with Tangle and Whisper's debuts. But if you don't care where you jump in and just want the best, I highly recommend IDW Collections 2 and 3. With just these, you get not only the Tangle and Whisper miniseries, but the complete Metal Virus arc. In my opinion, one of the greatest stories ever told with this cast. And Tangle and Whisper, let's just say they have some big roles there. Tangle and Whisper's debut in a mainline Sonic game has been a very long time coming. But did you know that Crossworlds contains other references to the events of IDW? In the rival conversations of Silver, Zaz, and Zavok, I think Crossworld was the perfect way for Sega to introduce these elements, as you don't need to justify the existence of a character in a crossover racing game. Players will just see them, maybe think they're cool, wonder who they are, and look into their origins. Then, before you know it, enough people know about these characters that you might be able to drop them in a mainline installment. I look forward to what the future holds for these two and the rest of the IDW crew.